Welcome to us.
Yeah, you're a little frozen there. Um, so yeah, welcome to us. This is first Substack live for both of
Yep,
us. We are
exactly.
currently under my Elevator AIQ account, but this is definitely a shared adventure with
Yes,
Chris,
for sure.
who's new to Substack, but definitely not new to these topics that we're gonna
Yeah.
talk about. Um, Chris, great to see you. We always have great, wide-ranging and insightful conversations.
It's
So
very
Chris and I
true.
decided to just
Bring it online.
kick the tires on Substack Live
Exactly.
and see how it goes.
I know.
Um, so just yeah. So Chris, why don't you just introduce yourself briefly, and people can
Absolutely. Chris Havrilla. I
check out your
am,
profile, obviously,
yeah.
but yeah, just 30-second. You're frozen.
Oh, is it unfroze?
It is. It's a little hiccupy though. I
That
don't
is
know if it's
weird.
my
I don't know
computer
if
or
it's my
yours.
internet or if it's this, but we'll see. Everything okay now though?
It's better. It's just a little
It's like
jumpy,
a it's like a
but it might be
delay.
fine for people watching. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Feels like there's a little bit of a delay. I'm not sure, but we'll play with
Yeah,
it and see. But
I
yeah,
don't know either.
everything looks good on the internet. So,
Yeah,
well, I will
yeah.
introduce myself. Um, Chris Havrilla. I have just recently started my own firm. Kind of a little bit of a ode to what I did before as an analyst and advisor at Deloitte, Burson by Deloitte at first, and then kind of reworked everything at Deloitte, but analyst and advisory firm called AI Alchemist. And it's really just a hat tip to all the raw elements that have to come together for strategic gold in this, big broad umbrella of AI and everything that it means. And been in the space for quite a while in different capacities, and but really kind of excited to bring everything together in this analyst advisory firm, all the perspectives, all the learnings, all the experience. And one of the things I built was a workforce AIQ, which I loved that you had an AIQ, and we found out it was different, but that is really cool. We can break that down at some point. But yeah, that's what I'm doing now.
Sure. Excellent. Yeah, congratulations on the move. I, as you know, spent many years at big enterprises, and it's quite a shift. It's kind of messes with your perspective, but I
Mhm.
think we both had the confidence to take all those learnings and experiences and parlay them into some new adventures. And I think there's a lot of expertise that is brought to bear in these new environments, whether you're talking about startups trying to sell to those enterprises, or you're just thinking about technology disruption. These days, a lot of human plus AI scenarios that we need to
Mhm.
game out and see what are the implications of these things. We've seen challenges with adoption of
Yes.
some of these technologies, people sort of either forgetting or
Hmm.
just not realizing that these are not pure technology plays. This is not an implementation challenge. This is about behavior change and culture change. People realizing they need to be able to adapt, improvise, and yeah, I think some of this plays into both of our respective AIQ
Right.
sort of formulas,
Exactly.
if those if
Exactly.
you'd call them that. So yeah, just for people, again, this is I've for Substack Live as well. So for people who haven't been following along on my podcast journey, I've
Yeah.
got 25 years at large enterprise, mostly IBM, and then NBC Universal as part of Comcast, and then around late 2020 is when I sort of broke out and started doing a lot of things on my own, with a few uh, stints in between as an analyst in the talent and HR technology space, and did some work at an RPO firm. Really tried to understand and immerse myself in the talent ecosystem,
Mm-hmm.
and I suppose a little bit of um, Monday morning quarterbacking to say,
Yep.
what's going on here? Why are we still not able to find and retain, good talent? How are we still not hiring for, true potential to succeed going forward? Not just looking in the rearview mirror saying, what did people do before, and making educated guesses about what that means for the
For sure.
future. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack. I mean, Chris, you and I could do this on a daily basis, and we'd still have plenty to
Absolutely.
talk about, given what's going on right now.
I love it. I love it. And we have the
Yeah.
gallery has begun.
So,
We have Jason and Jerry. I love it. I
oh,
love it.
Jason, he's up early for us.
Yeah, I love
Um,
it.
and Jerry. Well, Jerry's local to me, so hey, Jerry. And my dad is on as well. Morning,
I
Dad.
love it. Hey, Dad.
Um, so, yeah, so one of the things, one of the things that um, I wanted to bring up that I think is top of mind. In fact, there's a webinar from our friends at Kyle and Co. this afternoon about a report they just did on candidate fraud. So um, I had sort of the opposite experience. I had recruiter fraud, personal experience recently, and so I wanted to just talk that out and get your reaction, maybe get people's reaction. So we've seen these situations before where people reach out to you through email blasts and things like that. They'll say they looked at your resume, your LinkedIn profile. They were impressed with your background, working on some roles, whatever, and they start to just harvest, resumes for a
Mhm.
database, or whatever they do. And so I wouldn't consider myself an active job seeker, but if something, really interesting and appealing comes across, um, I'll be intrigued and see what that's all about. And so somebody reached out to me and said they were an executive recruiter. They've got similar message, impressed with your background. You seem to be a good match for some of the roles that I'm filling. And I said, okay, I'll play along. This was a LinkedIn, um,
Yeah.
in-mail outreach. And so I said, well, and so I said, listen, it's got to be like, bullseye. It's got to be like a perfect opportunity for me to endure all that working at a big enterprise entails. And
Right.
so I was a little, dodgy with comp and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, we can talk about that, if it's the right fit or whatever. So he pastes this abridged version of an executive role, and it was at IBM, which I spent 22 years at IBM, and
Right.
its headquarters is in my backyard. So I was like, okay.
Okay.
And it was a director level, which is one level higher than when I left. So probably appropriate, depending on the coverage. Could have been director, maybe senior director, even VP. But the title was Director of Responsible AI and AI Strategy. So I'm like, well, that's interesting. I cover both of those things. And then I sort of thought, that's a little strange that both of those things are under one person. IBM's a huge company, and a director is not, a high level executive. So someone at that level to have responsibilities for both of those very big areas seemed a little strange. But I read through the rest of the job description, and I'm like, this is the bullseye that I was talking about.
Right.
So he's like, well, I don't want to communicate any more details. I'll send you all the stuff around comp and a more detailed job description. But said, so give me your email and I'll send that to you. But uh, here's what I think you need to present yourself well and to be a top candidate. And it was like, you need an executive brief about like sort of how you think about the space. You need a 90-day
Mhm.
success plan, and you
Right.
need these things. So I'm gonna connect you to somebody who can make sure, if you don't have those already, I'm gonna connect you to somebody who can help you with that. I'm like, oh, okay,
Right.
I've heard that story before. It's like a little sort of bait and switch kind of thing. And um, so I don't get the email right away, and he's continuing to um, email through LinkedIn. And I was like, can I just stop you right here? Like, you said you were going to send me more details to email. I would be more comfortable if I, got your email. So I have your email and have your contact information. And I want to see the rest of the things that you didn't want to
Right.
share here. So we go over to email, and of course I go to Claude. I'm like, what do you make of this? Is this for real or whatever? And Claude was just like, this has all the hallmarks of a recruiting scam. Not only is he trying to upsell you on services that you don't need, but he hasn't provided any proof. I had already drafted, like,
Right.
show me that you have been hired by IBM to source for this
Mhm.
role. So show me that proof, and then give me something about, he had no, he was using a regular Gmail account, so
Yeah.
he wasn't even affiliated with like
Another
a
red
firm,
flag.
a search firm or whatever. So it was
Yeah.
just like, yeah, one flag after another. And
One
I
red
said, listen,
flag after another, right?
and because he asked me again for, yeah. So then he's like, I said, listen, this is the last time. If I'm wrong, I'll apologize in advance. But
Yeah.
this is the last time you will hear from me unless your next response shows me who you are, what you really do, and that you're an authorized sort of recruiter, external
Yeah.
recruiter for IBM, because I've never heard of this. I've interviewed for plenty of executive jobs and no one listed these items. And so he's like, I totally understand your skepticism, da, 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 da. But he didn't say anything about, the IBM role or whatever. Meanwhile, in the background, of course, I went to the IBM career site. I looked on LinkedIn. I looked on Indeed. This job didn't exist. So I just sort of let it go. But Claude's theory was it wasn't just an upsell opportunity for, career services to someone else, that they actually, um, more valuable than just grabbing somebody's profile, which you can grab from anywhere, is if those documents were compiled, it encapsulates my thought process, my
Mhm.
strategic thinking, how I write, like all of these really valuable pieces of information that could be used to either target others like me or
Yeah.
um, to aggregate a more valuable training set of data for some of these algorithms or whatever. So it was
Yeah.
just I was just I was annoyed for not catching it earlier. Obviously, I'm glad
Right.
I did a second check with someone that was or something that was
Yeah.
going to look at it from a different angle. But yeah, I mean, it was like too good, one of those too good to be true kind of scenarios. But
We've been so
it's just,
conditioned.
it's my personal experience with this cat and mouse game with hiring. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just say we're so conditioned, to trust and I mean, I used to, you know, champion getting the phishing emails that even IT would send out, testing our red flag, meter.
Right.
But Jerry's right. The scams are getting more nuanced. The technology is more sophisticated to capture the data that out there about us and impersonate and do fraud. um, it's all the more reason we have to keep thinking about humans being a part of this, right? How do we make better decisions? How do we, navigate things that are impacting us, as humans, personally and professionally, um, but also the systems that we have, right, to help do this. It's been funny for me, just as I've been really particular about clients I'm working with. Like, are you really, do you really need me? Are you really ready, for probably what I'm here to do with you? But the more I've been looking at and briefings and everything, I am more concerned about the top of funnel, I mean, across everything else that is going on, right? We still, and I use the royal we as organizations, still look to recruiting to solve every business problem, right? We're going to throw workers at something. Oh my gosh, we have a big pain point. We immediately go to recruiting. We don't think about building. We don't even think about borrowing sometime. We go right to, to the buy. And it's, it's that top of funnel is the thing that everybody wants to outsource the most. And but it's, even look at some of the lawsuits right now, like a Workday, Mobley, right? It doesn't, was he a good fit? We don't ever know, right? The machine's made a decision. And it's really kind of part and parcel of the problem, right? This is where all the fraud's going to happen. It's where we're throwing the most technology to outsource, human decisions, as opposed to, collaborate with technology to do it. But we start outsourcing, and it's like AI gone wild. And mistakes will be made, and it'll be why we can't have nice things if we don't think about this. But we have to be smarter. We have to use
I,
technology to help us be, smarter and more informed. But outsourcing this stuff, it's gonna go, it's gonna get ripped. So I'm kind of fascinated now with the top of the funnel again, because it's like it's where the snowball is going to start. And the more we go down into the
yeah.
funnel, to those decisions, into talent management, and how we you know um, look at getting the right skills and capabilities at the right place at the right time, is just going to continue to snowball. But I'm kind of obsessed with the top of funnel right now for that reason, in some of the vendors in that space.
Yeah, I'm just, I got into the responsible AI
Hmm.
space even before I sort of made a
Yeah.
slight pivot to human-centric AI, because those are very, right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of overlap there. There's a, the Venn diagram has a pretty big sort of union in the middle. But I started working in responsible AI and getting a certification from this nonprofit, to basically be able to audit companies on their use of some of
Yeah.
this technology, especially in the talent space. And you know, that was really about how do we trust each other, and how do we ask vendors better questions about how they're being sort of responsible by design. And that's privacy, security, ethics, looking for adverse impact and things like that. And as the technology has gotten better, you're right, we could be using the technology to make us to make us
Yeah.
better, to be the gut check and whatever. But we've got to trust each other and the technology. And the problem is the pace of this change. People are doing exactly what I said not to do, which is using AI wherever they can instead of where they should. And so now this whether it's the cat and mouse game of recruiting and candidate fraud, and that back and forth. Every resume looks the same now because it's all been AI-ified. Um,
Mhm.
you know, I just feel like Jerry was Jerry. Just so you know, I mean, nobody could replace you. But you've got digital twins, you've got these agent, swarms. You've got, all of these things that could basically learn so much about you. I mean, we've put so much about ourselves out into the interwebs for decades now. For those of us who are on the back nine, like us, um, but every younger generations, next generation talent, they've been oversharing for
Yeah.
half of their lives now too. So there's a lot of information out there that people can use to manipulate others, and if we can't trust ourselves, um, like we've got a big problem. I can tell already by some of the behaviors that we're seeing from some of the agents, and agent coordination, manipulation.
Yeah.
It's going to get worse if we don't have the right guardrails in place.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um, you know, it when we started to bring agentic in, it really started to show the notion that major decisions are going to be made, right? And whether it's with workers or with you know AI agents, um, what's in a decision, and there are impacts. Um, and I love what Jason just said too, right? Like, I think we're blaming AI for things, and maybe we should teach humans how to work in an AI world instead of blame AI. If I had a nickel for every time somebody said to me, "Aren't you scared of AI?" I was like, "No, I'm scared of scared of humans and how we make decisions and how we determine how to use things and like anything else. You know, hammers don't build houses, people build houses with hammers, and so are they using it for the right reasons? Do they know how to use it responsibly, to your point? um and and we're I love the other thing Jason said at the beginning and the end of the day. People don't know how to apply for jobs at all, and we don't know how to describe our jobs, right? Because it's really not about jobs, it's about work. And we've been making decisions and taking action on jobs and roles for so long. Even as workers, we self-identify in a particular role or particular job or a particular title, and not what we can do and what we can accomplish. And we tried with skills-based organizations, right? To make better decisions. And it's a data element, but at the end of the day, it's you're still judging on performance. Every decision that's made in an organization is based on performance and potential. But we don't think about what the work is. We don't really understand the work. And that was the biggest thing when I built consequence architecture in an an agentic world. It's like, look, we didn't really even know how people were making decisions, and we don't necessarily have all the data that was being used in conversations and all kinds of crazy stuff that we do when we make decisions, and nobody really knows what's happening and how the decision was made and somebody being truly accountable for it. And now we're going to just you know outsource it to AI. And I wrote a thesis this week about we've always been managing people like machines, and now AI is starting to act more like people, and and we're still trying to manage everything the same way. Input, process, output. That's not the world we live in anymore. We just don't. So it's mistakes will be made, and we've got to figure out how to employ AI to help us make better decisions. But we've got to kind of architect for that and hold people accountable for it, and then govern it, audit it, make sure everybody's doing things the way they need to do, and the decisions are being made in the right ways, in ways we can be accountable for responsibly.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of activity on the, um, not, I wouldn't call it necessarily an audit, but how do we put some governance around some of these agents? Uh, have how do we monitor their behavior so that the observability, the traceability of
Hmm.
some of these agents, because they can do all kinds of nefarious things that people didn't anticipate, right? Which is part of one of the differences between testing traditional software and all the cycles of testing that you would go through to test all the functionality and every button and widget and drop down. It's still a ruled software, whether it's old school software where you got a CD to install or software as a service, whatever. It's still built using rules, right? And so there's a finite sort of level to a degree, at least a more finite way to evaluate whether the software is working or not. And then there's always bug fixes to fix the minor things, or fix a vulnerability or whatever. But with AI agents, I feel like there's just so many things that people don't necessarily anticipate. So it's hard to wrap your head around where something could go wrong. But
Yeah.
it's like sometimes it seems like they're trying to escape or just push their own limits, like a little kid, right? Like, I'm just gonna keep pushing, keep doing things that are probably not appropriate, but until somebody stops me. That's the behavior that I just feel like exhibiting.
Yeah.
So it's it's pretty crazy when you do like a postmortem on some of these headline stories that we
Yeah.
see. I mean, even the one around OpenAI getting into Hugging Face, was it? It's
Yep.
like, well, yeah, it was just, I heard both sides of the argument. One is, oh, we didn't have the right controls in place. This is a cybersecurity disaster or whatever. And then it's like, wait a minute, but it was just sort of stretching its legs and seeing what, like,
It
you
was
left the back door
resourceful.
open,
It was resourceful,
right?
and it got
The agents just walked in. Yeah,
yeah.
right,
Happens with humans all the time, by the way. They hack, they get resourceful, they do whatever it takes to
right.
get the job done. And if we're not providing the right guardrails, the right, architecting, what we need done and what those consequences are, protecting against that, auditing for it, right? Holding people accountable to it, or workers, I should say. Um, but if we don't know what people are doing, we aren't guiding them, we aren't, you know, monitoring, managing, developing. Um, yeah, you can call it cybersecurity because it's AI, but it's why we can't keep managing people like machines. It really, at the end of the day, we've got to find a better way, because
Yeah,
this is all human like behavior, you know and we have to manage accordingly. They're thinking,
yep, yep.
they're learning the things you
The
want them to learn and you don't want them to learn sometimes.
right. Well, some of this came up in my um, conversation with some people I'm working with. Another shout out to Kyle and Co. So I've been part of their human centric AI council since I guess it's been a little over a year, and we started a new cohort, and I offered to provide some help in a couple areas. One is the sort of future ready um, working group, which is like, you know, what is 6 months going to look like? What is it going to look like in a year? And try to anticipate some of those scenarios. And then the other was just AI literacy and education. And do you need to vacate the
No, I
building?
don't. I really don't know what that
What does that mean?
was. Like, that must have been left over from yesterday.
Okay. 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 Just, just checking. Um, but I said, any core AI literacy, I mean, AI 101
Hmm.
needs to include responsible
Right.
AI literacy. Like, how do I use this responsibly? We don't just, if someone just, turns 16, 17, we don't just give them a license. They have
Yeah.
to go through,
Exactly.
driver's ed, and they have to, assure us that they know the rules of the road and things like that. And so, I just feel like your AI literacy program is incomplete if you have not
Yeah.
explained the fundamentals of what it means to be a good, citizen, and
Yeah.
to be discerning at what AI is giving you as its output. So we could have a whole nother separate show about, what all of that means in terms of the discernment, the critical thinking, the judgment, and the taste, that goes into sort of molding what AI gives you.
Yeah.
And so uh, I feel like it kind of goes back to what you were talking about before, Chris, around um, AI in
Yeah.
service of us, just like
Yeah.
other machines. It
Exactly.
takes tasks, it takes, a burden off of our plates, but there's certain aspects of who we are and what we do and where we find meaning and where we provide and generate value that we need to retain in our human selves,
Yeah.
brains and the rest of us. And so um, I don't know. I just feel like, so as we get further and people may feel like they're getting further behind in sort of learning all of this stuff, it becomes increasingly concerning. You can't think about it like you're behind. You're thinking about it as the first day I start is the first day where I'm going to recognize, new opportunities, and where I can augment my own capabilities and my own, thinking, um, to make myself, my team,
Yeah.
my organization better.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, and I know we're kind of at time, but I'm kind of curious of the people who are on. What do we make our next topic? Because just even in that small area, there's a lot to unpack. But yeah, I'm kind of curious. You know, what's kind of top of mind? What should we be unpacking? Uh, it I have seen with my own kids, I get it, Jason, that conversation of just like, "Oh my god," "Now what?" Right? There's always the, "Oh my god, what?" and then the "now what?" And, the nice thing about us old people is we've honed the judgment. We've mastered curiosity, and we've had to deal with a lot of change. And it's kind of the funny difference in our AIQs. I kind of consider AI as another one of those. Oh my God, what? Right? Now what? And it's always been about adaptability, but we just have to adapt faster and faster and faster now with speed, scale, and intelligence. And it's one of the things I measure for organizations is, that's the AIQ that I do is adaptability intelligence. And, it is about being adaptable. And, the nice thing about this current generation that I will say is, they're very purpose driven. And I think that's very helpful, right? Knowing what you kind of want to solve and what you have in your toolbox to do this. I think, they're accessing experiences now, which I appreciate. And they do it kind of JIT, right? Just in time. And I think that learning but that focus on purpose and solving things and taking away pain and being focused on those outcomes, call it a North Star, call it whatever. But I think our ability to realize that we don't live in a world of certainties. We live in a world of probabilities, and she or he who asks the best questions and stays focused on outcomes probably wins. But there's no process in the middle of that. It's flow. And I think you're spot on, Jason. There's organizational adaptability and human adaptability. And so like, if you don't nurture that, applaud that, develop that adaptability, you'll never have organizational adaptability. You have to have both. So, but it starts with the workers, because that's where the decisions are being made and work is being done. And I don't care what's sitting on the CEO's desk. It is going to take workers. It isn't going to happen. There's no magic button. We've proved that. So we've got to nurture and develop, human capabilities that are critical, to doing that kind of adaptability. The AI can come in with that intelligence, right? Because adaptability is, you want to do it quickly, but you've got to do it in a scalable way, so you're not kind of painting yourself in a corner. But that's why it has to be nurtures, because spot on, like Jason, because people have been scared to make decisions. There's no structure. They have to have that permission. They have to have the empowerment to make decisions and take action. But it's kind of, how do we build that for our organization and nurture that and develop that? Because we won't be able to do it as an organization. So I love it. I love it. So lots to unpack here. I know we'll be doing this on the regular. So probably put a pin in it here and say until next time. Couldn't have asked for a better audience.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, no, this was great. Yeah, Jason's typing away. It's like role reversal with me and Jason. I'm usually the one commenting furiously on his community calls and webinars. So Jason, Terry, everyone, thank you for being here. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. I think Jason's raising some really excellent points. I definitely want to dig into future workforce. I think his kids are a little bit older than my daughter, who's about to go off to school. But I think what's going on in higher education, which Jason knows a lot about since he's teaching, but there's a lot to really think about, and I just want to make sure that people set the right habits and have the right mindset, which for my AIQ, that ties into a little bit of the adaptability and how you think about how you contribute to the world and how you use technology to help you do so and help others. So there's a lot to unpack there, and then of course,
well, and it's happening across every
even
generation
Terry,
too.
Terry had some good points as well, the learning and stuff.
Every generation of this workforce is being impacted by this, so
for sure.
it's good to do it. So all right, we'll hope to see you all next time. Best audience ever.
I would say, Chris, before I forget, I was just going to say one other thing I definitely want to dig into was Jason was talking about, hold on, let me find it. It wasn't the adaptability piece. It was, well, I'll just say on the adaptability piece, my AIQ has you'd have an individual AIQ and a team AIQ and organizational AIQ. So I absolutely agree. Just like adaptability, there's different parts of the organization, and they got to help each other, right? Champion programs. Like that. So yes, let's pause here, and we will pick it up next time.
Thanks,
Chris,
everybody.
Thank you so much for doing this with me.
I love it. Bye, y'all.
Thanks, everyone. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.